Ladies and gentlemen, independent Americans around the country and around the world. There is a lot of heat and darkness all across this country, but there is also light. And that light is in the form of our independent movement, which we continue to bring you more of this summer. You heard from Brian Bengs. You heard from Todd Achilles last episode. You heard from Angus King. You heard from Jim Walden. And now you are going to hear from a returning champion, a man who set the independent movement ablaze and rocked the political boat in powerful ways in his independent run for Senate. Returning us to us on Independent Americans, the great and powerful Dan Osborn is back. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you. It's good to be back. Appreciate that intro.
You're also back because you're running again, which...
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, we announced a week ago that we're running against Billionaire Pete Ricketts for U.S. Senate here in Nebraska. His was a special election for those who don't know Senator Ricketts. He was a two-time governor here in Nebraska, used his money to get elected, then used his money to get a different governor elected, who then that governor placed him into the U.S. Senate when Ben Sasse stepped down and went to the University of Florida. So here we are.
Well, I want to get into all of that. I want to get into your strategy to win. A controversial post you had this week where you said, I agree with Tucker Carlson, which I want to dig into because I'm with you on that, actually. Your favorite Ninja Turtle you posted about, but more importantly, folks haven't heard from you in a while. I know you've had your head down. You've been grinding away. Where are you and how are you?
Well, I'm currently in a coffee shop in Omaha, Nebraska, meeting with different people from the community. But no, I'm doing good. I'm still working my 40 hours a week as a steam fitter. So it's and raising a family. So I got a lot going on. But I like staying busy, and I like trying to make a difference in communities and hopefully on a bigger scale on a national level.
Well, I said last year I thought you were the tip of an iceberg, and now we see that iceberg starting to take shape, especially with independent vets who are running for Senate. I mentioned Bengs, I mentioned Achilles. I think there are others, but you, I think, showed people what was possible, Dan, right? And we've talked a lot about this on my show, and Independent Veterans America endorsed you with the idea that you were going to spark, a lot of other folks to run, and now I've seen over 300 that want to run next year. But let me ask you this. You're running again against a different senator. Why'd you want to do this again? It was a grueling experience last time. You did set the world on fire, but why do you want to do it again? Why do you want to jump in and jump into this political world and leave steam fitting and take another run at this?
Yeah, if you would have asked me in November of 2024 after the election, I would have told you to go pound sand that I'm not doing it again. It's very taxing. It's taxing on yourself, your mind, your family, especially. It's very difficult on families with all the negativity that is in politics these days and the negative attack ads. They've already started with Ricketts. They're attacking me personally. It's all false. It's very, very difficult. But at the end of the day, I know who I am. My family knows who I am. And we sat down and we had that tough discussion. Ultimately it came down to, my daughters are afraid, and my son, they're afraid for their future economically and various other reasons that they're not going to be able to be homeowners because it's exponentially harder for them at their age than it was for me when I was their age to, try to get ahead. And, my daughter just told me, she goes, Dad, I just know you would be better for people than Pete Ricketts. And so we have to do this again. We ended up getting 47% of the vote in Nebraska. Although we fell a little bit short, I still feel we did something pretty special. And I want to continue this movement. I want to continue the momentum. And we're starting from a lot stronger place than we were. We're not going to be able to fly under the radar. We're seeing that already, but they're taking us seriously, which is good. But again, we were learning how to build the plane and learning how to fly it at the same time in 24. Well, the plane's built. We've got teams. We got tried and true volunteers throughout the state we've already hit the ground running, and we're gonna, take on what I think embodies everything that is wrong with politics, and that's in the billionaire form of Senator Pete Ricketts.
I want to go deeper into Ricketts because I think this is going to be a fascinating contrast. But let me ask you, you lost a close one. You're a Navy guy. In the military, we do after action reviews. So what'd you learn from that campaign that can help you be stronger and do things differently this second time around?
Well, it's not. I mean, we're going to do pretty much everything very similar the way we did. Again, we've learned, well, we've met a tremendous amount of people. And, I did 200 public events in Nebraska, advertised public events. And I went out to where people live and work and play and raise their families, and sat down and talked with them and tried to understand whether, it doesn't matter to me what side of the aisle they're from, learn about them, what their issues are. Every community, even in a big city like Omaha, has their different parts of town, and each community is just a little bit different from the next, and they all have their trials and tribulations, their success stories. I'm trying to be like a sponge and learn everything from those people, and take it on to the next event, where I can go and talk to people about their issues. And again, this time we're starting out earlier, we're starting out stronger. I want to do 300 public events, but what we did learn is, we need to have a little bit more focus on social media. We need a little bit more focus on rural newspapers and radio, to just go out and be able to be effective messengers with our overall broad stroke message.
Let's talk about Ricketts, because I think this is a fascinating contrast. He's a billionaire. He's an incumbent. He's a Republican. He's not a veteran. He's a part owner of the Chicago Cubs. Is that right? All right.
Yeah, I like to say baseball team.
Yeah.
It's, I'm not. I love Cubs fans. I've always rooted for the Cubs myself. So this isn't about the Cubs. This is about an owner of a professional baseball team, at a time where, I don't know if you saw my baseball post, but with the tax cuts that have been put in place, if I'm not, I don't want to misspeak as far as exact figures go, but we're talking about, he's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars richer per year. So guys like that are going to be in the market to go buy another baseball team. And meanwhile, a family of five like mine can't afford to go to a game. The ticket prices and the food prices and everything is so high. These guys keep getting richer off that. And I understand that, these markets, they bring people out to the games, they provide jobs and help boost the economy. But for me, it's, as far as these owners go, and especially having taxpayers pay for new stadiums and stuff like that, when is enough enough? And I think we're reaching the apex of enough is enough already. Don't mess with America's pastime. I love baseball. I'm a big fan of baseball, and don't mess with my baseball and don't mess with my coffee, I guess.
I like that. I think that's a good poster. We're recording this on Tuesday. Last night was the home run derby. Tonight's the All-Star game. But I think you're cutting into something that's really powerful, which is the contrast between a guy like you, who's a working man, a steam fitter, down with the people, and a guy who owns baseball stadiums. I mean, that's really the challenge that we're facing in this country. And I mentioned it earlier, but I thought this was powerful. You posted something and said, "I agree with Tucker," and it was a Tucker Carlson monologue, and I listened to it, and I agreed with the core of what he was saying, which was, kind of basically a sign of how fucked things are, is that young people can't afford to buy houses. And that is a really important indicator, because they don't have ownership in our society. They don't feel like they can achieve what their parents did. But that's a really powerful insight to how a lot of people feel like the system is rigged. But it also cuts to how, as an independent, you can follow ideas and you can break the mold, and you don't have to be afraid to say, "I agree with Tucker Carlson on an issue." Can you talk about if you think the level of frustration is higher now than it was 2 years ago when you ran, or how you view that?
Well, I haven't really been able to, we just announced, so I haven't been able to get out into greater Nebraska and do events where I'm gauging the sentiment of Nebraskans and how they're feeling currently. I can only read the news like everybody else does, and my own personal friend group that which is a wide variety on the political spectrum. And some people are afraid. Some people think this is the direction we should be heading. And but for me, it's and I mentioned the broad stroke, the high level zoom out of my campaign, if you will, and it is antitrust and anti-monopoly laws. It's protecting small farmers and ranchers, small businesses, and that's how we do that, is enforcing the laws we already have on the books and hopefully creating some more to level the playing field for workers, for working families and small businesses. I use the example all the time, Dollar General. In any town, Nebraska, you can drive, whether you're coming or going, and then I suppose there's a Dollar General at the end of every town. And then you see mom and pop shops boarded up because they can't compete with the prices of Dollar General. That shouldn't exist. I mean, everybody should have the same opportunity to thrive in their communities. And the system set up to favor big ag, big corporations, and those are the ones that can afford to buy senators.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We cannot, and so campaign finance reform has to be in that conversation of how we fix the problems in this country. Because if it costs $200 million total on each candidate to run for U.S. Senate in Texas, Montana, Florida, and Ohio, the system's broken. The system's rigged right then and there, and special interests and big corporations are in control. They're in the driver's seat. It's not a government by and for the people anymore. It's a government for the 1% and the corporations. That's what I represent. That's why I want to get in there, and that's what I want to fight to protect.
Dan, that message is resonating. I think it's going to resonate even more now. And it also, I think, increasingly comes across as nonpartisan or bipartisan, right? You're running against the Republican. As of now, correct me if I'm wrong, there's no Democrat in the race. But part of what we've been saying is that independents can win where Democrats or Republicans can't, right? In red states and blue states, because they represent an alternative. But one of the things they're going to throw at you is say, oh, he's not really an independent. He's a Democrat in disguise or something like that, right? How do you counter that without a Democrat in the race? What's your answer to folks who say, is this guy really independent? He's just a Democrat in disguise or something like that.
Well, you only have to listen to me talk, I think, to understand that, or come out to my event and talk to me personally. Sometimes I feel like a kid in the middle of a nasty divorce. With the Republicans just want to beat Democrats. Democrats just want to beat Republicans. We're in this doom loop, and the American people are getting left behind. So I talk about issues. I talk about Biden failed on the border. He's flat out failed on the border, and there's a fallout from that. But on the flip side of that coin, we need some meaningful, humane immigration reform that I've never seen since I've been alive on this planet. So you got to ask the question, why is that, right? Why? Well, it should be a fairly simple solution. More judges, more lawyers. We know we need the workers. Everybody that I talk to all across Nebraska is not anti-immigration. They just want to see it done right. They want to know that we're being safe. We're vetting people coming in. It's simple. But it doesn't get done because it all goes back to the monopolies and the corporations that benefit from exploiting the cheap labor, enriching themselves. And again, those are the ones that can afford to bankroll campaigns. So it all ties into each other. And we need to do better as people, as Americans, to try to lift up everybody instead of this continued divide, fighting each other. I hate it. My dad's Republican, my sister's a Democrat. It's tough to go to family dinners, people arguing, and I think they like to keep us divided on the wedge issues. Fighting, smoke and mirrors is what it is, and they laugh all the way to the bank. So. That's what I'm not afraid to go up against corporations. I did it in 2021 in the Kellogg strike. I'll do it with Dollar General. I'll do it with whoever. I'm not afraid of them. But those are the I don't want to say that's the fundamental problem. And I'm not I don't want to come off as like I'm trying to play Robin Hood, take from the rich and give to the poor. That's not what it is at all. Again, it's an equal playing field where everybody is paying their fair share, and again, that will help to uplift everybody.
Yeah, I mean, you seem like a moderate on fiscal policy. Like you're talking about free markets, you're talking about small businesses and working people. You're also in Nebraska, where we've talked about before, is kind of a perfect case for independence because of the way the system is set up, the history of independence in the state. We had Nick Batter on the show who did really well. We had Jason Taylor down ballot. Nebraska is really, I think, an interesting epicenter for what can happen, and I think you're going to be able to test that again. But at the same time, you got Donald Trump, who's president, and he's unavoidable, right? He's the elephant in the room. He's, I think, already taken a shot at you. If he hasn't, he probably will. But
Twice.
how are you going to deal with Donald Trump? What's going to be your position in regard to him, especially since he and his policies essentially dominate everything?
Yeah, I'm not running against Donald Trump. I'm running against Pete Ricketts, and that's the race that I need to focus on. I need to highlight the contrast between myself and Ricketts. And just like I said in 24, whoever got elected president, I'll work with whoever. I'm not going to be this person who's anti everything. And I'm not going to, if I'm operating in the US Senate, I'm not going to be uh just automatically be a no vote for Donald Trump because of if it's going to uplift Nebraskans, I think I'm not going to be anti just to be anti. I like to approach everything objectively from who I am, and that's the way I'm gonna operate in the U.S. Senate. And I'm on record saying that with this big beautiful bill getting passed, if I was elected in 2024, it wouldn't have passed. Is there some good things in the bill? Of course there is. It's a 920 some page bill. But I think it falls short, and it falls short again for my core message, and that's being able to uplift all workers. And we're going to see more consolidation of family farms and ranches, which is huge in Nebraska, uh, consolidated into corporate farms. And that's bad for Nebraska. That's bad for America. We're going to see rural hospitals. We already see one closing down here in Nebraska. Like these are the issues that this bill falls short. No tax on tips and overtime. I've been preaching that forever. I mean, that was my bread and butter my whole life.
Yep.
So of course there's some good things, but it doesn't uplift enough people. And the simple fact that folks like Ricketts are going to get hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in tax incentives, and the lower class people are actually going to fall short
Mhm.
altogether. That's a problem for me.
Dan, Nebraska's been in the news a lot. We had Representative Don Bacon on this show a couple weeks ago, who I think has been really important as a moderating voice in the Republican Party. He's been really, a maverick. I asked him if he was going to leave the Republican Party and become an independent. He basically said no, not now. But I asked him if he was going to run for president, and he didn't say no. Now it looks like he might consider running for president, whether it's as a Republican or as an independent. But being an independent's become a lot cooler than since the last time you did it, right? We saw that with Todd Achilles here, who left the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party continues to fall, but so does the Republican Party. But what's your reaction to Don Bacon? He's leaving Congress now. He's an important voice for Nebraska. What's your reaction to him leaving the House?
Well, Don's, he's been a champion for labor here in Omaha, on labor issues. He votes with labor on Davis-Bacon laws and stuff like that. So, he's but Don's a very, very smart individual. He lives in a very purple district. He knows the district well, and he's got to walk that fine line. And but he's a good operator. I know him personally. I like Don, and I wish him well. Whatever he decides to do, I know he announced he's retiring. So I don't know what's next for him. I don't talk to him too often, but we'll see what he does. But I wish him well. And again, I applaud him for his military service and his dedication to the country. and it's hard to be in office. You know, you can't please everybody all the time, and he's got his convictions that some people don't agree with, and that's going to be politics in general.
He's been really outspoken on Ukraine, on Pete Hegseth, especially on national security stuff, in a way that I think is really important. You know, I hope that he breaks ranks with his party and endorses a fellow veteran in you. I think that would be a powerful statement. I don't know what he's going to do. I have no inside info there, but I think it's important in showing he can be a part of this moderating force on those issues. You know, if you were in the Senate, you know, Ukraine seems to become much more popular now with the president, with the Republican Party. Pete Hegseth, these are votes you would have been there if you had beaten Deb Fischer last time. So for folks who, you know, are taking another run at you, you know, if you had been there instead of Deb Fischer, what would have been different? So now they can envision that going forward with Ricketts.
Yeah, well, it's it hasn't not too much time has passed. Like I said, I'm not going to be a rubber stamp for anybody. I'm not going to be anti anybody. I would operate based on each individual issue and whether I feel like it uplifts Nebraska or if it's an international issue. I think a lot of people say America first, and we shouldn't support anything around the country. I think supporting Ukraine and our allies is America first. I think there's strategic ways to do it. It shouldn't be a blank check. Every single thing we do internationally, especially when it comes to arms and money, needs to be accounted for. There needs to be some structure to it. But when I see hospitals and schools getting bombed and innocent people dying in mass numbers, the United States should be using every tool in their diplomatic toolbox to be preventing this. And, we saw diplomacy not really working with Russia, so we're going back to supplying NATO with arms. So it's
just a really important
crazy
question.
Times that we live in, but yeah, go ahead.
Really important question. There were a lot of votes that were decided by one vote, or like let's use the Hegseth nomination as an example. J.D. Vance had to break the tie. That's an area where John Bacon's been really critical. I think he said Hegseth should step down. I think he's been a disaster. Would you have voted for Pete Hegseth with all his integrity and personal issues if you were there, or or not? Would you have voted for him or not?
I mean, I didn't have all the information. I don't have all the information in front of me that the other senators have. But at face value, it seems a strange pick to me to have a news contributor or a news personality in that position. So again, I would have to. I don't have the information in front of me, so I can't say yes or no. But from the outside looking in, it seems like a strange choice.
Yep, I think that's an understatement for sure. You can stick around for a couple quick fire Patreon questions after this. I want to thank our Patreon members, our supporters for making this independent content especially possible. You are the latest in our Meet the Independent Candidate series. I'm going to give you a really easy one here. You've been posting some fun stuff on social. Also, I think shows you're a man of the people. This was an interesting insight into your campaign. They asked, who was your favorite Ninja Turtle? And you had an answer and said, of course, it's this one. Why? And why? Talk about that. Who was your favorite Ninja Turtle and why?
Well, it's Donatello because for whatever reason I felt compelled. I like the staff as a weapon. Probably one of the oldest weapons recorded. And he likes to fix stuff. And I'm a mechanic. I love working on stuff. I'm a steam fitter now, and so I always gravitated towards Donatello.
I think that's a great like embodiment of what we hope you can do is go in there and wave a stick around and hit some people who need to be hit, but also fix some shit. And there's a lot of stuff that needs fixing. So we're rooting for you. I hope you'll come back often. You're a real inspiration, man. You've been stepping up when others are stepping back, and you've been a real shot in the arm to the independent movement, especially for independent vets. So thank you for all you're doing, man. Give them hell out there, and I hope you'll stay in touch.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, Paul.
You got it, brother. Stay vigilant.